Alright, today we're in Linwood, Washington. We're going to be doing an Aquor V1 Plus retrofit installation. It's a brisk December morning here in Seattle as we get ready for winter. Perfect time to be doing a project like this. This home is an existing home, as you can tell. We've got lap siding on the exterior, copper plumbing all throughout. Let's check out what we're dealing with right here. So we have an existing brass frostery right here. It's got a vacuum breaker, so it's backflow protected. Looks like it's hooked up to a splitter and then this hose reel. This is a great setup in the summertime, but with freezing temperatures on the way, this homeowner really didn't want to connect and disconnect their hose every single time they wanted to use their water. So they decided to switch to Aquor. I'll show you how it's done. Let me show you the plumbing connection on the back side of the wall. So we got a lot of space to work with. This will be really simple. We have copper plumbing running right up to the hydrant, covered in foam insulation. Very simple, straightforward. So we'll be using copper to adapt to that. Let me show you a couple of the tools in the hydrant that we'll be using. We have the most important part, piece de resistance, is our Aquor House Hydrant V1 Plus. We went with the 6-inch model. Show you how we got to there. We got our 2 vacuum breaker hose connectors since the existing system had a vacuum breaker on it. A couple cover options depending on how we're feeling. We have our hole saw with an 1.5-inch hole saw bit, Phillips driver, 3 32nd drill bit for the mounting screws. We have a copper cutter. You could also use a manual one. Extra bit of copper pipe, Teflon tape, copper fittings, a couple pipe wrenches, and we have our copper press tool, which we'll explain in a minute as well. And then there's always the old school, tried and true method of using a torch and solder to sweat the connection. We highly recommend that. It requires a little bit more skill, so that's why we were excited to show you something that could be a little bit easier and quicker. All right, quick note about these press tools here, because a lot of you may have never seen one before. This contraption is used to squeeze the fitting on. A lot of our pro plumbers are using a motorized version of this tool that retails for a few $1,000s. We've never used one of these before, but we figured we'd give it a shot. It's only a couple $100, so this might be a really inexpensive way of doing a couple fittings. You wouldn't want to do your whole house with it, but it might be worth trying, so stick around and find out. First, we'll shut off the water and remove the existing hose bit. Here's the main right here, so we'll shut that off. Drain the water. Now that the water's drained, we're going to cut the supply line, remove the existing fixture, let the remaining water drain out. Okay, here's the hydrant kit that we'll be installing. Here's the Aquor V1 Plus and the existing one that we pulled out. Notice the Aquor is a 6-inch compared to this 8-inch model. But that's okay, because we got plenty of space on the inside, so we made sure that it would fit. All right, first things first, we'll test fit the hydrant, make sure that it fits. Okay, we're gonna use the plastic cover for a test fitment before we switch to the black metal cover. Looks like it works great. Test fit the cover. We're going to take off the back end of the hydrant here so that we can attach the fitting to it. This is also how you access the internal rod of the hydrant. Now I'll thread it back on the hydrant, making sure that the spring is in there. And tight is fine. So at this point you might be wondering what type of fittings these are. And this is called a press fitting. So how a press fitting works is a mechanical tool squeezes down on either side of this extremely hard and causes it to crimp down onto the pipe. And you'll see it has an EPDM O-ring inside, which it uses to make the seal. The nice thing about these press fittings is that you can test fit it before you make the actual connection. So here we'll slip this onto the copper pipe, and here we see exactly the distance that we need to cut an extra length of pipe. I think that'll work. Now that we got our small addition cut out, we're gonna back out the hydrant a couple inches, swap in the black metal cover, and then tuss fit everything together and make the final connection. Okay, now that we have the black cover slipped in behind the hydrant faceplate, we'll go insert this small addition of pipe on the back side, tighten everything down on the front. Now that the hydrant is firmly secured to the wall, all the plumbing fits correctly, now it's time for us to make these connections permanent by squeezing them down with this press tool. Open the jaws and put it right around that fitting right here. There we go. Wow, that was really easy. This tool, the convenience and the speed of it was awesome. It took less than 60 seconds for us to make 3 of the fitting connections, literally under a minute. All 3 of them are done. I'm really impressed. If you want something that's even faster and less involved, we also like to recommend shark bite fittings for DIYers. It's called a push fitting. A few other brands make them as well. You can pick them up from any hardware store. Just like the name implies, you literally just push the plumbing into it and it makes the connection. It's that simple. So definitely keep these in mind too if this tool was a little bit intimidating for you. But very inexpensive tool comparatively to a lot of other plumbing tools, and seemed to work out great for this situation. All right, with all the plumbing connections made and the hydrant firmly secured to the wall, that's pretty much it for now. It's time to turn on the water, check for leaks. All right, water's all the way on. We're gonna wait about 10-15 minutes, make sure nothing drips, but so far, looking great. So to wrap this project up, we're gonna test to make sure that the cover's functioning fine, and then we'll test the hydrant out with one of our hose connectors. Everything looks good here. I'm gonna check the cover operation. Everything's looking good there. If you need to, you can adjust it with the friction hinge on the right side. And then here's our hose connector. Remember, if you're using one of our hose connectors without the ball valve, you'll want to attach a garden hose to it before you plug it in. Otherwise, you might get sprayed. Awesome. There we go. Working perfectly. We're going to unplug it. Now it's self-draining and it's totally winterized and freeze-proof. Awesome. We'll make sure that completely stops draining and that there's no leaks whatsoever. Looking good. That's a wrap. All right, guys, that was it.
start to finish, about half an hour. This was one of our fastest installs to date. A lot of that thanks due to the setup, which was all inside the garage. Even the shutoff valve was in the garage, which was really convenient. We're really impressed with the press tool. That was our first time trying it ever, and it worked like a charm on the very first try. So that was really impressive for a budget tool. I would say we do recommend it. If you have any questions about using that tool or a shark bite push fitting or sweating the traditional way, we're happy to help any way you want to install. Leave a comment in the description below with any questions, shoot us a DM, give us a call or email. We're happy to help. Thanks.